Fire of Bergen, 1198. The Fire of Bergen took place in 1198 in the Norwegian city of Bergen, which was an important trading hub at the time. The fire began in the densely populated and highly flammable areas of the town, rapidly spreading due to the wooden structures that were common in medieval buildings. The sound of cracking wood and the sight of flames engulfing the market square would have been terrifying for the residents. The fire resulted in extensive damage, destroying homes, businesses, and public buildings. Many people lost their lives, while others saw their livelihoods vanish in the blaze. The fire severely disrupted the city's trade and economy, which was crucial for Bergen's prosperity. In the immediate aftermath, efforts to rebuild the city were hindered by the lack of resources and the scale of destruction. The fire highlighted the need for fire safety measures, and it is believed that it eventually led to changes in construction methods to make buildings more fire-resistant. This tragedy helped initiate the early development of fire safety regulations in medieval Europe. Fire of Lübeck, 1276. The Fire of Lübeck occurred in 1276 in Lübeck, a prominent trading city in the Holy Roman Empire, located in present-day northern Germany. The fire began in the heart of the city, which was densely populated with timber-framed houses and narrow streets. The flames spread quickly, consuming much of the medieval city. The sound of cracking wood and the sight of buildings collapsing under the heat filled the air. The fire ravaged large portions of Lübeck, including important trading centers and warehouses, leaving behind a city in ruins. The human impact of the fire was severe. Thousands of citizens lost their homes, possessions, and businesses. The community's reaction was one of panic and desperation, as many tried to salvage what they could, while others fled the city in fear. The loss of life, though not fully documented, was likely significant due to the rapid spread of the flames. The immediate response was limited, as the city had few resources to fight such a large-scale fire. Despite efforts to extinguish the flames, the wooden buildings and high population density made it nearly impossible to control. After the fire, Lübeck's economy was deeply impacted, but the city gradually rebuilt. In the aftermath, the disaster led to reforms in city planning and the introduction of new fire safety measures, including regulations on building materials, to prevent future tragedies. Great Fire of Oxford, 1190. The Great Fire of Oxford occurred in 1190, devastating the historic city of Oxford, England. At the time, Oxford was a thriving center of trade and scholarship, housing an early version of what would later become the University of Oxford. The fire started in the center of the city, likely sparked by an accidental blaze from a hearth or cooking fire. The fire spread rapidly, fueled by the city's close-packed wooden buildings and narrow streets. The sounds of crackling timber and the roar of the flames would have been overwhelming, while thick smoke poured into the sky. The human impact was tragic, with several lives lost in the fire. Many residents were forced to flee their homes, leaving behind their belongings and livelihoods. The fire destroyed a significant portion of Oxford, including homes, shops, and religious buildings. Personal stories of despair and loss would have echoed throughout the city as people witnessed the devastation of their community. Oxford's immediate response was limited due to the lack of organized firefighting measures. While some citizens attempted to control the fire, the resources and techniques available at the time were inadequate. As a result, the fire raged uncontrollably for hours before it was finally brought under control. In the aftermath, Oxford's economy and reputation suffered, but the rebuilding process eventually brought about changes in urban planning. Fire regulations were introduced, marking a shift towards more fire-resistant construction and better urban organization to prevent future disasters. Fire of Bristol, 1461. The Fire of Bristol occurred in 1461 in the city of Bristol, England, during the height of the Wars of the Roses. The fire began in the heart of the city, likely sparked by conflict-related activities or an accidental source, and rapidly spread through the densely populated medieval town. With narrow streets and a high concentration of timber-framed buildings, the fire was able to spread quickly, causing widespread destruction. The sounds of crackling wood and the sight of roaring flames would have been terrifying to the people of Bristol as the fire tore through homes, markets, and shops. The human impact was devastating, with many people losing their homes and businesses. While specific casualty figures are not known, the damage to property and the disruption to daily life were significant. People fled the city in fear, many of them left with nothing but the clothes on their backs. The immediate response to the fire was largely ineffective. The medieval city lacked the infrastructure and resources to fight such a large blaze. After the fire, Bristol faced severe economic challenges as it worked to rebuild. The disaster led to changes in city planning, with new fire safety measures and building regulations put in place to prevent future disasters. Fire of York, 1137. The Fire of York occurred in 1137 in the historic city of York, England. At the time, York was an important center of trade and a bustling urban hub, with many wooden buildings tightly packed together. The fire is believed to have started in one of the city's crowded marketplaces or homes, likely due to an accident or a spark from cooking or heating fires. The fire spread quickly through the timber structures, engulfing much of the city. The crackling of burning wood and the roar of the flames would have filled the air, while thick smoke darkened the sky above York. The human toll of the fire was significant, with many people losing their homes and businesses. Personal stories from this period tell of desperate attempts to save belongings and flee the raging flames. The exact number of casualties is unknown, but the destruction was severe. The immediate response to the fire was limited, as York lacked organized firefighting resources. Despite attempts to control the flames, the fire continued until much of the city had been consumed. In the aftermath, York's economy suffered greatly, but the disaster prompted the city to adopt new fire safety regulations and building practices, marking a shift toward more fire-resistant construction. Fire of Dublin, 1186. The Fire of Dublin struck the medieval city of Dublin, Ireland, in 1186. During this time, Dublin was a rapidly growing port city, and many of its buildings were made of timber, making them highly vulnerable to fire. The fire is believed to have started in one of the crowded districts of the city, possibly from a cooking fire or an accidental spark. Once ignited, the flames spread quickly through the narrow streets, consuming homes, businesses, and markets. The sounds of crackling wood and the sight of flames rising high above the city would have been terrifying to those who witnessed it. The human impact was severe, with many people losing their homes, possessions, and livelihoods. Thousands of people were displaced, and the loss of life, though not fully recorded, was likely significant given the speed and scale of the blaze. The people of Dublin reacted with panic and fear as they struggled to escape or salvage what they could. The immediate response was inadequate, as the city lacked the necessary resources to combat such a large fire. In the aftermath, Dublin faced economic hardships as it struggled to rebuild. The disaster led to improvements in city planning and fire safety regulations to prevent future tragedies. Fire of Florence, 1304. The Fire of Florence occurred in 1304, devastating the medieval city of Florence, Italy. At the time, Florence was a major political and cultural hub, with many buildings constructed from wood, which made them extremely susceptible to fire. The fire is believed to have started in the densely populated city center, possibly from an accidental spark or mishandled flame. Once ignited, the fire spread quickly, fueled by the wooden structures and narrow streets, destroying much of the city's infrastructure. The sounds of cracking wood and the sight of towering flames engulfing buildings would have been overwhelming. The human impact was devastating. Many people lost their homes, businesses, and lives in the fire. The people of Florence reacted with fear and desperation, trying to flee the flames or save their belongings. Although exact casualty numbers are unclear, the fire left thousands of citizens homeless and caused widespread disruption to daily life. The immediate response to the fire was limited, as Florence lacked organized firefighting resources. Despite efforts to control the fire, much of the city was destroyed. In the aftermath, the fire led to reforms in city planning and building practices, with new regulations introduced to prevent future disasters and improve fire safety. Fire of Constantinople, 1204. The Fire of Constantinople took place in 1204 during the chaotic period of the Fourth Crusade, when Crusader forces sacked the Byzantine capital. The fire began as a result of the Crusaders' violent invasion, which saw many buildings in the city set ablaze. Constantinople, with its dense population and wooden structures, was highly vulnerable to such a disaster. The flames spread quickly, engulfing large parts of the city, including important landmarks and religious buildings. The sounds of the city's destruction, shouting, the roar of fire, and collapsing structures must have been terrifying as the city descended into chaos. The human impact was catastrophic. Thousands of citizens were displaced, and many lives were lost. The residents of Constantinople, already under siege, reacted with fear and panic as they attempted to flee or protect their homes. The Crusaders' actions exacerbated the loss as they looted and destroyed much of the city's wealth and culture. The immediate response to the fire was ineffective, as the city was overwhelmed by both the invasion and the blaze. In the aftermath, Constantinople was left in ruins, with significant political, economic, and cultural consequences. The fire and the sacking of the city marked a turning point in Byzantine history and led to long-term reforms in the rebuilding efforts. With the help of